Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America.
Good night, and good luck.
Hey everybody, it's Rick. Welcome to The Elephant in the Room. Every week, we try to pull back the curtain on something we think is happening in the country that people are not paying enough attention to, and to explain why we think it's important. By the way, you just saw a black cat creep out from behind me. That's Zurich. He is very shy. The elephant in the room this week is civilian control of the military. This has been since George Washington, since our first president, since even before he became president. America had a sacred tradition of civilian control of the military. We did not cross the streams. We did not allow presidents, and presidents did not seek, by the way, to control the military as a political force, to force military members to conform to the party or the ideology of the president at the time, or to use them against American civilians. This week, Donald Trump has penetrated those final barriers. He's crossed those Rubicons. At Fort Bragg this week, there was an absolutely repugnant, utterly repulsive display. While Trump went to Fort Bragg, gave a speech, they hand-selected, from reporting that we've seen today, or excuse me, on Thursday, they hand-selected members of the audience who looked the part. They hand-selected members of the audience based in some reporting on their political opinions. These are young soldiers. These are young adults, 18, 19, 20, 21. Every single one of these people in that room should have been told by command, this is not a political event. You will be polite. You will not engage in clapping or demonstrations for or against any of the president's statements that come in the political space. But Trump couldn't resist breaking that barrier. So you have these young men and women clapping and hooting. There was a swag store brought onto a military base to sell Trump merch to these young men and women. You know, you always think, oh, the grift can't be that bad. The grift is always as bad as you think. The grift always goes further down than you think. The grift is always as horrific as you think. But the leadership failures at this moment, every member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chairman is a Trump stooge, so we'll leave that aside for the moment. But every other member of the Joint Chiefs has been silent. Army Command, a few have spoken now off the record saying how horrified they were by it, but they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid that Pete Hegseth, if they say that this was a wildly inappropriate moment, will stop their chain of promotions, that he will stop their careers. They will remove them from positions of leadership. And they're right. That is exactly what Pete Hegseth will do. And that is why Army leadership should have spoken up, should have spoken out, should have said, no, sir, we will not do this. Because as I've said a couple times before, and it gets beaten into officers in this country and to soldiers who swear two separate oaths, by the way. Neither one of those oaths is to the President of the United States. Neither one of those oaths is to a man. Those oaths are to the Constitution. But the silence of leadership tells you just how bad the rot is, just how deeply sick the system has become, just how corrupting the influence of Trump has become. We're about to see another example of this weekend. We're going to see the Kim Jong-un missile parade tomorrow. To that, I have one thing to say. What part of No Kings don't you understand? This parade is an extraordinary expense for the ego of Donald Trump. Now, in the first administration, Jim Mattis killed it. In the first administration, John Kelly killed it. In the first administration, people understood that you don't have a parade, a triumph to celebrate a president's birthday in America. That's not how it works here. And the thin veil that this is the Army's birthday, and it just happens to be coincidentally on Trump's birthday weekend, and it's a parade with a giant receiving stand and an endless train of soldiers and tanks and weapon systems being dragged through the streets of D.C. This is because Donald Trump does not believe that he is a president. He believes he is like Vladimir Putin or Xi or Kim Jong-un. He believes that he lives in the world where the missile parade shows his manhood, shows his strength, shows how he controls the military. And I want you to marry this up with the threats he's making. People protest this parade, we're going to come back at them with extreme force.
Celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protest that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, you know, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
What are you going to do, Donald? Shoot people? Because that's what the Marines in Los Angeles have been put on the line. And my greatest fear is that we are going to slip over that last barrier. That some idiot's going to throw a rock or a brick or a bottle or, God forbid, shoot a police officer or a soldier, and we will unleash active duty American military personnel on American civilians. We will not return from that moment. We will not be America after that moment. It has been slipping out of our hands in a more obvious and evident way than it's been in a long time. I am not typically the guy who says over and over again, I fucking told you so, but I fucking told you so. Many, many of us on the pro-democracy side of this equation have warned about this moment. I wrote about it 5 years ago in my second book. He wants to be a military dictator. There were 1 million people in the period of time as Trump corrupted Washington who said to me, oh, don't worry about it. I'm just playing along so that we can steer the ship subtly, so we can move him in the right direction. I hope that lie was comfortable for all of you. I hope all of you that believe that lie were comfortable with it. I spoke to a retired 4-star general today, a guy I've known a pretty long time, who said to me, he goes, I will tell you with the God's honest truth, I'd been ordered to do this. I would have resigned my position. Those soldiers are not there randomly. They are led. There are officers who take an oath to the Constitution and are obligated to disobey illegal orders. Remember that. You are not, when given an illegal order, you are not encouraged to disobey it. You are not, it's not a suggestion that you don't follow an illegal order. You must not follow any illegal order. Its illegality makes it no longer an order. We are at a moment where the civilian control of the military and the military understanding and having wired deeply into its DNA that does not do two big things. It does not point guns at American citizens. It does not, again, point guns at American citizens. That is what is happening right now in Los Angeles. There are reports as I'm recording this that ICE and federal troops will be activated in other cities, including Seattle and New York and Philadelphia. Every city he does this in, every city where he federalizes the Guard or where he deploys active duty military forces, increases the possibility of a calamity. These young soldiers deserve better leadership. They deserve better leadership in their officer corps. They deserve much better leadership in the general officer corps. They deserve much better leadership from the chiefs of staff of the military. But the idea for Trump is that the military is his personal police force now, his Praetorian Guard. The military is the enforcement of his will, that they will follow and obey his orders no matter what. If you're a member of the military tonight, if you're watching or listening to this, I want you to ask yourself, is your oath to him or is it to the country? Is the vow you swore, is the bond of honor you forged with the Constitution or with a single man and his political party? This is a question you're going to have to ask yourself. If you're an officer, you may be called to lead your troops on Donald Trump's orders against American citizens. History is a big part of military education. I've said the Rubicon a couple times, I think, tonight. But there is a Rubicon you will cross personally, professionally, that cannot be uncrossed, a bell that cannot be unrung, a shot that cannot be unfired. And I'm hoping, I'm praying that some of you will put your ambition for higher rank, higher leadership positions aside when those orders come and say, no, sir, I will not. No, I will not order my troops to do so. And they may send someone who will. That may happen. There are men and women in the military today who have made the decision that currying political favor with Donald Trump and his administration is the way to success. And I'm not going to deny that they are making political decisions on promotion, political decisions on selection for leadership positions. And it's tempting. A lot of you guys in the officer corps, you work your whole career. You grind and grind and grind. You go through the long hell and that weird jump from 06 to general officer. It's a black box. It's a narrow path from which very few emerge. I know that ambition that drives so many of you will be tested. They will offer you recognition. They will offer you position if you will point guns and perhaps use them against American citizens. Tom Nichols wrote a phenomenal piece about this in the Atlantic today, or Wednesday, excuse me. I really commend it to your attention. This moment of failure in the military should scare the hell out of every American citizen. It should scare the hell out of those officers who swore that oath and who still give a damn about this country. We are in a very stark choice. The elephant in the room this week is a big one. And if we don't get ourselves rapidly into a position where the military is willing to say no to illegal orders from this president, their position in American life will never be the same. They may control America. They may be called to kill Americans and do it. They may control people that way, but you will no longer be a part of that long chain of honor that stretches back all the way to Lexington and Concord. men who fought and died honorably in battle, who served honorably in every corner of this earth and in tasks and missions of peril and complexity and unbelievable danger to themselves. You will not be a part of that chain of history. You will have severed it if you turn against the American people. And that, my friends, is the elephant in the room. Thanks so much for listening, folks. We'll be back again next Friday with another elephant in the room. Please feel free to go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that like button, all those things that we do to feed the algorithm. Folks, this is a very high stakes moment. This is a very, very high stakes moment. I encourage you. I'm going to be going out to a No Kings rally this weekend, but I encourage you to do that. Let's show these people that the American people are out there on the streets, that we are not standing silent, that we are not bowing down, that we are not kneeling down. And again, to military officers out there, please remember your oath. I beg of you. Folks, thanks again. See you soon.